Hello, and welcome to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. This 5th edition D&D adventure, The Heretic, was written and run by your DM, Scott. And now, please enjoy episode 481, titled, We Have Meric, who is... Meric. Actual play begins 33 minutes and 17 seconds. Okay, we're going to do something we haven't done in quite a while. We're going to do a little bit of listeners' feedback. And part of the reason is that we have listeners' feedback to do. Most of it has come from our blog page, which is kotnpodcast.com. It's all one word, no spaces, no nothing, .com. In that, we have a post for every episode, and some of the episodes had some particular questions and some feedback. So the farthest one back that is recent was a comment by someone who had signed in by the name of Mark, who posted a comment on episode 470, which was titled, I Don't Think Knowledge Ever Hurt Anybody, in which he said, yes, with an exclamation point. And that was it. Except after he said, okay, more than yes. These episodes are just dripping with realism and true characters. The DM is putting the effort in for sure, and I'm loving it. And so excited to see this play out. Keep it up, folks. So,
well, as the DM, thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment.
That is some high praise.
Yeah, that is. And we're certainly, I know that not just me, but everyone around the virtual table seems to be putting in a fair amount of effort into their characters, or for me, into the world and into the NPCs, into the story. And everyone's bringing it each and every week at a really high level. And I think that's hopefully evident in the podcast itself, is that everyone's really bringing their A game. And as a DM, I've really been enjoying this particular story and hope that other people like Mark are enjoying it as well.
Well, as someone who doesn't have to GM, I've been enjoying playing as opposed to GMing. I really appreciate you filling in as DM. And I assume that the rest of the players are enjoying it, but you feel free to speak up, gentlemen, if you'd like to.
Oh, it's all right.
Okay.
I've been having fun with this adventure too.
Oh, great.
Yeah, been having a blast. Fun to try and explore character in depth. I appreciate the kudos on our work.
I'm enjoying it, and I'm interested to see how things will unfold, or our powers or influence will be revealed.
There's some additional comments on episode 471, the next one, which was titled, See, There's No Politics in Religion. And this was from Diploraptor, who has commented much earlier on other episodes, which he does mention something that refers to that. And he said, yes, no politics in religion. Also, finally getting back to commenting on the episodes and whatnot. I should do the Dresden thing and create a drinking game for KOTN podcast. But actually, I really should get my Facebook account back. And I think Diploraptor mentioned something else. You know what? I'll read the rest of his comments, which there are two more. One is on episode 472, which was titled, In Case We Need to Go Dark. And he said, oh, no, the party is going to be jumped by those darn dangerous wood elves. Actually, I think they were red caps, but
yes,
that was it might have been confusing because I did a cliffhanger at the end of those when I was editing it.
Or you might just be incredibly suspicious of elves.
True.
Which is completely fine because they were acting rather suspicious and we never figured out why.
They were suspicious, weren't they?
He also commented on episode 473, which was stirring a pot and getting your hand burnt is an expected outcome. And he posted the comment, I like to imagine that each rumor or claim that has been made turns out to be about 50% true, if not more. Travel log adventures are so much fun. And I think what the Diploraptor was referring to is our comments and our rumors and claims and things. I don't know, I might be wrong, but I think like things we were trying to figure out what was going on, and that about 50%, if not more, of the time were correct. Or you might have been referring to the DM telling us rumors that 50% of the time were relevant. I don't know exactly what he was referring to.
It sounded to me like the first of the two might have been where he was going, although I can't be sure either, because you guys do make a lot of guesswork involved in sussing out a mystery, and you guys go about talking your way through it really well. And about half the time, you end up being right. And about half the time, you end up not being right. So I'm going to go with that as far as what he was alluding to.
The other thing was, I think the reference to Facebook was because of the remarks in the podcast in which we talk about pictures and maps.
Right. Yeah.
Are available on Facebook, but just so other listeners can know, you don't have to be on Facebook. You did until I read these messages, because recently I posted them also on our website, kotnpodcast.com. I put a separate blog entry that had pictures of the map, pictures of the most recent town that we were going to, Copshire. And that's the most recent episode that's being released. It has something to do with murders that were occurring there. And we were researching it. So in the podcast, there's reference to numbers on the map. And if you want to see that map, you can go either to our website, kotnpodcast.com, or our Facebook page. Those both have those pictures there. In addition, they have pictures of characters that Scott posed to us in Roll20. So that if you want to see what those characters look like, then they're available on those two sites as well. Because I'm telling you right now that the picture of Meric Plumbottom looks very English, potentially one of the halflings from Lord of the Rings, but also for some reason I'm thinking of the Beatles. Maybe he's an odd-looking character. It's very, very strange. Which is why I pinned him to the wall. I'm just saying.
Or Monty Python.
Yeah, okay. I can see that. Sure. Yeah. But just so everyone knows, those are the two options if you want to find them. They do exist. And if I missed one, please let me know. Just post in the comments on the blog page or on Facebook, and I'll make sure I add them.
There is a missing picture.
There is.
There's a picture missing for Dappleshanks. And
oh, well, you didn't send it to me. That's
no. I said missing in the sense of I didn't create one.
Oh.
So it's my fault. I'm taking full responsibility here. But yeah, it would have been good to have a picture of that little pony Dappleshanks to add to the menagerie of pictures that you have up.
I'm not lying. I'm imagining a pony dancing on its two back feet badly. And that's what I think of when I think of Dappleshanks, because I think it was Thomas or maybe Mike. You might have made the comment. Or maybe John. I don't remember who it was, but when we were investigating and there were hoof prints in the barn, and it was clear that it was a bipedal, and someone said unless it was Dappleshanks walking around on 2 feet.
That image stuck with you.
That it did. It's still in my head. I can't get rid of it.
Yeah, like a werehorse.
There you go.
Or like a Gary Larson cartoon where when we're not there, the horses act like people.
I didn't think about that, but
yeah, I didn't either. Good call.
Truthfully, I did not go through the Facebook. We don't have a lot of comments there lately because we haven't been doing feedback. It's kind of a self-creating effect as we started doing it more rarely. So people stopped commenting more often. And then therefore we stopped doing it even more so because no one was commenting, etc. But I do want to give a shout out to Ari, Mike, and Miles, who are constantly, I swear, the minute I post something, they're giving a thumbs up or a heart or just enjoying the podcast and our posts. I think Ari's waiting for like the entire storyline to be finished, and then he will binge and listen to it.
Right.
So sorry, but this one's running a little longer than we talked about the potential of making shorter ones so we can get to different storylines more often. This one is not that. It is a very long story, and it's also a very fun story. Everyone's enjoying it. So,
and just to kind of hit on your point when it comes to feedback, I can only speak for myself, but as a DM and as a player, I really enjoy feedback. Positive, negative, doesn't matter. If listeners are engaged and willing to write their thoughts and ideas and feelings and their basic opinions out, it just makes it that much more rewarding as the DM or even as a player that they're engaged in the story and they're really enjoying it. So, or not really enjoying it, but having effective criticisms. I love it, and I would like to see more of it, and would be happy to do more of it if the demand is there.
And you could not have bump set me better to the next and last comment that we have that we're going to do in the feedback, which is one that was also on our blog page. It was by Winchell. It was on episode 479, which I believe was our last one we released. This feedback should be in 480. And the title of 479 was, I've done a little bit of work in a morgue before. That was John's character, Melody. And it is a type of comment that is more a question and looking for us to talk about the adventure. And it starts with a question for the GM. A long time ago, I believe it was early 2011. That's what, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Scott said that he planned his games around a certain theme. For shit luck, if I remember correctly, it was the loss of home. I don't remember if that was the
It
theme.
could have been because you all weren't, if I remember correctly, you all weren't from Cleveland, thinking back a decade, but you all weren't from Cleveland. You all were transplanted there. And that strikes a bell with me. So it's been a long time since I've listened to Shit Luck and even went over my notes, but it sounds right.
Yeah, but I do remember, too, that near the end of it, we had time traveled back in time.
I think, but he's talking about the very first story, Shit Luck, where that was the third story, I think, where you went back in time to Cleveland. I
don't know if they were referring to it as the entire story, the world of darkness, or specifically Shit Luck. It might have been.
Right.
But they also ask, is there any specific theme that you had while planning out The Heretic?
Yes. But I don't really want to share it as...
You can't share it to us players.
Because you can share themes before you start. Like there's more than one. There's several themes at play with this particular story. And I still do prescribe to that method of storytelling where I come up with a theme or themes that I want to explore and then build a story around that, loose enough where the players can influence it and change it as it goes, but still striking on those themes throughout. And there certainly a theme that I can say, because everyone is actually experiencing it, is if your God stopped talking to you, how would you respond? How would your faith be impacted? How would you be able to move forward? Would you still retain your faith? Would you lose some faith? Would you lose all your faith? Would you need proofs and miracles that they're still around? Just seeing how each of your characters responds to the fact that your God no longer speaks to you, or goddess no longer speaks to you as a nation, is one of the themes of the story. I have some other themes that I would prefer not to delve into right now, but that's one I can certainly share because it's one that you're experiencing each week as you play.
Well, they continued with another comment, and it kind of relates, I think, more to all of us, which is why I separated them slightly. And it feels like, at least now in the storyline, we just figured out who the characters are and how the world is. Parentheses. Great world building, by the way. Loving it. And then another sentence continues with, there aren't bad things, but I am curious if there are any specific themes that we should be looking for. So one of the things that I want to mention is something that we really haven't shared with the listener shot. And that was, well, there's two things. The one we're not going to share it, which is because it is a world building, I think two of them, two session zeros in which you asked us for input on the world. Right. And how you wanted it to be, how we thought it would be interesting to be created. Yeah. You shared the theme that you just shared with us, and then we kind of helped with the ideas and thoughts that we had. And the other thing that we will eventually share with the listeners is that each of us had a private session with you in which we talked about our characters and the secrets of their life. And as that goes along and it becomes relevant and it starts to be clear to the listeners what it is when we're going to release those flashbacks, more or less, I think. So I found that was interesting because I got to really work on my character and what I thought, and you, in hearing about it, then weaved it into the storyline. And I think that was true of all of us, I assume.
I would hope so. I can't speak for the other players, but I'll let them speak for themselves.
Yeah, that's true. And when you involve the characters like that, it makes you think more about what they've gone through, what their life is like, where they plan on going. Makes you think a lot more about, instead of just breaking up a generic character and going with it, but actually giving them a little bit of a history and a background and personality and everything.
Secrets. And
I think that Scott approached it in a very good way. And what I mean by that is when you make a character's history, it shouldn't be all these amazing things that happened in my past and I conquered the world, because you're level 1. Instead, we just had, what is our character's life? What happened? What made us adventurers? Whatever those things would be that led us down the path that we are currently starting in. Describes somewhat, at least in my character's case, the personality and the way that that character acts are based on some of the things that had to do with their past.
Right. What led you to the academy? Like, why were you there? And what happened in your life that kind of like pushed you in that direction and shaped you and formed you to take on this goal of becoming a Fist of Amira? I appreciate the compliments, both from the listeners and from the players. But I have to say that I really was motivated and I think learned a lot. I just recently, within the last 6 months or so, got turned on to Critical Role, and Matt Mercer and his group of role players, voice actors who play, and not trying to emulate that, because there's only one and they do what they do fantastically well, and they're amazing and successful.
They're literally actors. I mean,
right? They're literally actors, right? They're voice actors, and
none of us are necessarily that.
No, but what I meant was I took some ideas from like how he world built a bit. Although I backed off, he creates everything, like literally almost the entire world he writes out beforehand. That's not what I did. I wanted you guys to be much more involved with the creation of the world. I had basic themes and ideas, but I wanted you guys to be more involved. But as far as having that session 0 with each character and talking about what made them tick and who was important in their lives and what tragedies had happened to them and what happiness and elation came into their lives as well, all of that was pretty much inspired by what he did with his voice actors before his first session. And I wanted to do something similar with you guys to get some really good background information on your characters and really get the ball rolling before the story even began.
One of the things I also found interesting is, while you're allowing us to play our characters in a certain way because of our history, but that's called role playing. That's what people do. But you've also allowed us on occasion to just not create, but insert something into the storyline that has to do with our relevant past actions, and you don't even blink. You just accept it, because I don't think as players we're abusive and that we're going to say we have a superpower because we could do. No, we don't do that, but we definitely do. It's potentially coming up in this episode or next. I make a reference back to something that happened in my childhood, and it was relevant to what was happening then. And it was also true. It fit my characters, but it was also spontaneously made up at that moment. But again, that's role playing. And I think, though, that it's been going really well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think a lot of players have actually started to, and these might be later instances that occur further down the road as the travels take place. But almost each character that I can recall has something where they say, well, based on my past, because they know their past so well, because we put the work in beforehand and had those sessions, each one had a session 0 and said, this is my idea for the character. And I said, well, this is my idea for some things that might be happening, or did you ever think about this? And then they came back and said, well, I like that, but I don't like that. And it was this half-hour conversation or 45-minute conversation where their characters really, for the first time, got that spark of life, because they were basically breathing into their character the background and the history of that character. And then when you say something later on of, well, by the way, back in my youth when this happened, it's so easy to incorporate that into a story and want to incorporate it into the story, because it just really fleshes out the character that much more and makes them that much more believable and real. So I can definitely say that I don't know that I'm as good at it as you say. As long as it's not being abusive, I try to accept it and roll with it. I want to put a lot of credit at you guys too, to think up these things and say, this really fits my character. This is an idea of what they would do or what they would say, or they know this person, or they know someone in the city, or whatever the case might be, based on their background history. And I think that really kind of goes both ways. The character's not abusing it, and it's the DM rolling with it.
Right. And as the listeners know, I edit a lot while doing the podcast. But there's never been a case where someone has suggested or created something on the fly and you said no, and then I had to edit it out there. because they argued with you about it. And that never happened.
Right.
There are a few cases when someone said something and then you asked for details of it that if it was relevant or not, I would leave it in. But if it wasn't, then I would take it out. You would just want to fully understand what the characters are saying. But I don't love to drill down and go off on a sidetrack. I'd rather keep everybody flowing through the story as it exists. So,
Right.
But I haven't had to edit that way.
I believe if you go way back, there was a time where Scott denied some story ideas I had for a character.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean in another story or in this particular one?
Oh, another story. I'm sorry. That's right.
Absolutely. I'd like to think that as time passed and I got more experience, listened to more podcasts, and kind of expanded my background a little bit, it's a fair criticism and it's correct. I was certainly much more rigid in my DMing style, which I think should be, hopefully, people can listen to that and go, well, great, because they might think they're not the best storytellers right now or the best dungeon masters or they have flaws. Well, you can get better, you can improve, and you can grow into the position. So don't ever be satisfied with where you're at. Continue to listen to other people.
But to be fair, I mean,
yeah,
you did not think that the house name or profession of my elves were appropriate.
Are you talking about Keebler?
Keebler, and he had a bakery.
Right. Yeah, to be fair, I was probably 20 years ago or at least 15 years ago. But yeah, that
The house of Keebelar and all the wonderful treats that they would make.
right. I've grown since then, though.
But we
I'm
have
hoping
not.
Mike did. Yes. Okay. There's still a couple more comments from Winchell. And one of them is, as for the players, I am curious if you're liking your characters so far. Just wondering if you're loving how they mesh as much as we, or I guess I, think that they do. For the record, Winchell, you're not the only one that thinks that the characters are a good combination. There are other people that have commented that to me. But does anybody you have a comment on how what you think of your character?
I keep changing my backstory, which is probably driving Scott crazy. Just tweaking it one way
not
or another.
changing. Right,
Not
right.
changing, tweaking it. Just coming up with a different idea or reason. But the main basis of where and what and how he got to where he is remains the same. It's just some of the details I've been changing on it.
And make the character more interesting and more fun for you to play, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I've been trying to experiment a little bit with how I play my character, Marduk, mostly because he's usually quiet and held back and deferred, but that's because
Spoilers.
Yeah, I guess that's I guess I maybe revealed something too much there, but the point is that
Your character's managed to let it slip a couple of times. Gabrielle is keeping stock of it. I made a joke about it once, and I don't think it passed muster. I don't think anyone noticed.
I did get that, but
All right, good. You were on top of it,
Yeah,
and that's
but-
who the joke was for.
But that's the thing. He's trying not to. He's still not entirely sure. It's actually the first miracle was that I'm having a challenge how to incorporate that reticence or that holding back with our backstory of being trained in the academy. Was he more of a loner fist and just assigned, and he's still with the team because we're all fists and put on this mission, which is kind of, that's why he's a little bit more, I'll stick with the horses and the wagon. Or also, I was trying to go the other way, that in moments of danger, he kind of is, I won't say it's a death wish, but it's almost like, and this is me really reading into things, but if he's going to be some kind of figure of prominence in his head, because not only was he, but he's also found the spear, then it's not that he has a death wish, but he kind of feels like
He's destined to do something cool.
no, well, I don't know if it's that, but I feel like he's actually, I think of him as like he's terrified of these revelations and these experiences, and he feels unanchored and lost. So in a way, I would rather have him, like when you're scared and you don't have anything to lose and your back's against the wall, like, okay, well, that's when you're the most dangerous, or that's when you're not afraid to take chances because there's nothing to lose.
Right.
And yeah,
I've been trying to establish a relationship between Alder and your character, Marduk, because of our abilities. They're very key.
and that's one of the things I tried to build on, is that, okay, if I'm going to be the straight man or the setup man, I'll let you deliver the side punch. So I kind of like the idea of basically carrying a shining spear.
Oh, yeah, you absolutely draw attention to yourself so that I can be sneakier and other people could be safer.
That's exactly it. That if I'm going to, all right, I'm going to turn on the lights, or I'm going to shine bright, or I'll be the vanguard, and I've also got the resilience and the strength, I hope. When we encounter an opponent, I like to be the
lightning rod.
Right, be the punching bag, or be the primary to kind of take the brunt of it and open up opportunities for other people to maneuver and set up for the coup de grace or the nice extra kills. And
there's also a relationship that I have with Gabrielle Melody and my character, in that we had a childhood together where we spent time, and it's something that we constantly talk about and work at and try to weave into the storyline. Thomas, who plays Gabrielle, and myself have on more than one occasion taken our dog for a walk and talked about, oh, I want to do this. And yeah, I know you're pissed off about, I mean, that was just like last episode is how I treated that halfling. And you were upset about it and just wanted to talk about why that would be, and, you know, sneak it into the story and work together with you guys. And I do enjoy both of your characters. Gabrielle is a interesting creature. Are you enjoying playing it, Thomas?
Yeah, sure. It's been nice to find ways to stay in character and still be a bit jocular, even though Gabrielle isn't always. I've been swearing a lot less. The tags have all been due to other people mostly. She doesn't swear nearly as much as I do.
Wow. The title of Shitlock, you know, that gives you an explicit tag just on that alone.
Mm-hmm.
But well, I do enjoy my character. I do enjoy all the meshing that I have with other players. I do sometimes want to back myself off a little bit, as I tend to be, because my character is someone who's very used to being social and dealing with people. So he's the one who steps forward all the time. And sometimes I feel like I'm stealing the spotlight a bit too much as a player, and I try to back off a little bit.
That's a Flanagan thing.
You might not be wrong. Back to the comments. We have a few more. Same person, Winchell, also asked, Scott, is there any inspiration that helps you design this world and the story that takes place in it?
Inspiration, I think just the great religions of the world. You know, we hadn't really had, in the 30 plus years we've been playing together, longer probably, ever had a really religious themed story. I just thought that would be kind of cool. I recently been getting into religion a little bit more too myself. So I kind of just did some research of various religions and various ideas to get some ideas. And the fact of a god stopping or a goddess stopping talking to you struck me as just a really intriguing idea. If you're going to make religion, you know, I don't want the story to be focused on like trying to push a religion or anything like that. I just wanted to investigate how characters in a world would handle their god stopping to speak to them. So I looked at real life examples and then started to build my story around that. So that was probably my inspiration overall. But really, it's like every other writer in the world that is telling a story. You read a snippet of a different adventure, that like some other adventure that I'm reading, or I read a story, a novel, there's a little piece in there that just catches you the right way. And you're like, I could take that and twist that and make it into, it's just, I guess, being open to different ideas and just always looking, whether it's in conversations in daily life or whether it's in more fantasy type literature, looking for inspirations to try to make things happen and make it interesting. There's no really one place. It's just a wide variety, I would say.
Okay, which is basically the last comment, although they closed with this statement. Lastly, just curious if we could get any maps that you folks are using. And that's where the comment was from. So Winchell, as I explained earlier, KOTNpodcast.com has them now, and the Facebook page as well. But the final sentence that Winchell posted was, thanks for hearing me out. And I want to say this, which is we are currently short of a couple players. Michael, who plays Brother Byron, has not been available to join us for a while. And I'm not exactly sure when he'll be returning to us, hopefully soon. But he will be missing in the future released episodes for a while. And John, who plays Melody, is being forced to work on the night that we record every other week because they had a coworker who donated their kidney for transplant, and John has to cover for them, and so he's not available, which made me think, okay, we got an open night here to do nothing. And it was pointed out to me that there was comments out on the blog page that I've been ignoring. But I found, and I don't mean to criticize the rest of the people that posted the comments at all, but I found this one very interesting in the sense that it would lead us to talking about the backgrounds, specifics, and details of our characters and the storyline. And that, for me, has always been fun, to have a discussion on that level and to get into. Obviously, we enjoy role-playing. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been doing it. Well, we've been recording for 10 years, but let's be honest, we've been playing for, 30 years plus?
Since I was in junior high school, and I'm in my 50s now.
Right. So it's not something new, but it is definitely something that I enjoyed, this type of feedback where people are asking specific questions that they want to know, things that we certainly know, but I'm not sure we're conveying on the podcast, details about our characters and stuff like that. But I thought that this was some very interesting questions, and I really appreciate them being asked because I love responding to them.
Yeah, same here. Like I said, I wouldn't mind more questions. I wouldn't mind more feedback from the listeners if they feel up to it. If they don't, that's all right. Just listen and enjoy. That's an equally viable solution and method to follow. But as players and DMs and storytellers, and because we're all storytellers, even for our characters, when we're playing a character, we're telling a story. It's not just the DM or the GM or whatever the case might be. It's something that we all, like you said, we love doing it and we're passionate about it, but talking about it with other people is even more fun. So yeah, feel free.
Okay, and with that, that's the end of the feedback. I'll just ask everybody involved if anybody has a last statement they want to make. If not, then we'll just go on to the adventure.
Let's do it.
Enjoy the adventure.
Hello, I'm Scott. I'll be your DM tonight for this 5e adventure, The Heretic. With me tonight, starting on my right, is...
I'm Tom, playing Alder Rusha, a human male cleric of Amira, and a new skill-seeking rogue.
I'm Mike, playing Marduk, a male half-orc fighter, graduate of the Academy, and new Fist of Amira.
I am Jim, playing Grodor, a hobgoblin warlock and one of the mighty Fists of Amira, always searching for truth, knowledge, and power.
I'm John, playing Melody, a female human cleric, the third of the exemplar Family Harmony, ex-ambassador turned political operative.
I'm Thomas. I'm playing Gabrielle d'Angelis. She's a female human paladin, the Holy Fist of Amira, on a mission to the Hollowlands.
All right, where we left off last week, and we'll cut there from that conversation back to Morgan's house.
Sorry, Gabrielle.
No problem. I could have jumped more into that conversation, but I felt like you were handling it well.
Okay.
Back to Marduk, Grodor, Mel, and Brother Byron. You are in the kitchen of Morgan. She, again, is wearing a discreet-looking nightgown. She is very beautiful. Her eyes are red and a little bit puffy from having been crying. She looks a little bit exhausted, just like it's been a rough day for her. So she sits down at the kitchen table and says, "Please, have a seat. But can we make this quick? I really want to get to bed." And Meric says, "Absolutely. We'll make this as quick as we can. These gentlemen and this young lady just have some questions for you, and we'll try to get out of your hair as quick as we can, but I'll go ahead and let them lead this conversation. Thank you."
Oh, geez, how do we start here? We're doing a little bit of an investigation on the death of Galvin Strom. We were just talking to his mother and taking a look at some of his belongings, and we found a note that may have come from you, And so we were wondering if you knew anything about what might have happened the night he died.
Why would you think the note came from me?
Can we show her the note?
Yeah, I just pull it out. I had a little leather satchel to keep it out of the rain.
And while she's taking a look at the note, I'm going to just take an innocent walk around the table and without being obvious, just get a smell of the room to see if it smells like the perfume that's scented on the note.
Okay.
Is it possible to use an insight to observe her reaction to seeing the letter in our possession?
Absolutely. I think can't really help each other with it, but you can each make an insight check, except for Grodor, who stands up and moves over to make a different type of check.
I'm just making it look like I'm walking and just taking a look around the house.
Stretching your legs.
Yeah.
Insight check for Mel and for Marduk, please.
Marduk rolled a natural 20.
Nice. And Mel?
I've rolled an 11.
Okay. You did not have advantage on that roll, by the way, so we'll take your first roll, which was an 11.
I do for like a spell that I have, but...
Oh, then I will be quiet and say that in any case you rolled an 11. Mel, you don't have any insight into what she's feeling. She looks to you to be just looking over the note, and she tosses it on the table and says, this could be from anyone. Marduk, when from the angle that you had where you were sitting, you noticed her left, where her lip ends, and kind of there's like a little dimple there. It twitched. There was a really quick dart of her eyes to the left and then back to the note, as if to you she's not being truthful. Mel, you'll have to act like you don't know that. Grodor, you get up and you walk around the room and get close to her and go ahead and make, let's see, let's go with perception.
Wow, I'm not very perceptive today.
Well, it's the rain. It's not, but it is at the same time. You smell the perfume,
you didn't
but
have to make,
you're not sure if it's because she just opened the note,
right?
And that's why you're smelling the perfume, or whether it's on her without getting right up next to her neck and inhaling. You're not going to know which one it is, but you definitely do smell the perfume as she's looking over the note.
Marduk will try to catch the eye of the others and give a little shake of his head like she's not telling the truth.
Okay, I'm going to say you're able to do that without too much trouble. She had tossed the note on the table and said, this could be anyone. And then says, is that it? Is that all you have for tonight? Because I am really exhausted. I knew Galvin from the goat farm. He was a nice young man, and it's absolutely shocking, and I'd like to get back to my evening if I could, please. Meric looks incredibly uncomfortable and is looking at you guys like, are you done, or are we still asking? He didn't catch your eye that she's not telling the truth.
Right.
We're not quite done, because even if you only knew him from the goat farm, maybe there's a hint as to how he ended up perishing that you observed.
Were you tutoring on the farm the day that this happened?
Yes.
And did you notice anything unusual going on at the farm or anything about Galvin?
It just seemed like, they were obviously concerned about the first goat that got killed, and so they were investigating around. Him and Ulrich were walking around the farm, and they called in the Soul Watch to investigate. It was an unusual day in general, but I was just tutoring the two boys, and I didn't pick up on anything really unusual. Everyone can make an insight check.
Grodor's having an off day. Mine was a 10.
Marduk was an 8.
Melody has a 17.
Melody, you get the idea that she's telling you the truth about nothing being unusual around the farm, but the 17 lets you know that there's something missing. There's something more. You're just not sure what it is. It doesn't have anything to do with her noticing anything unusual at the farm. there just seems to be some other bit that you think is there. You think there's more there. You're not sure what it involves or what it's about. There's just more there. But she, at this point, is now crossed her arms in front of her and is looking to each one of you as if she would like you to leave.
Marduk was indicated that she looked to the left.
Correct.
What's over there? Was it just like a visual tell, or is there some...
It was a visual tell. That's what I was going for. If you're thinking about lying, you look off to the side to kind of like gather yourself and to think for a second, and then go back to what you were paying attention to.
And that's where the devil sits on your shoulder.
It's just a tell. Sure.
Okay. I am not sure what more we can do here, if that's all you've got for us. Certainly, you would help us if more death was to be had tonight, so surely you've done all you can. Let her squirm on that for a minute.
I know nothing at all about the deaths that have taken place with the goats or with Galvin. I don't know who's doing it. I don't know why they're doing it. I don't have any inside information about that evening. But I hope you find whoever did it. Like I said, he was a nice young man. He was a good person. I talked to him a lot around the farm while I was there tutoring the kids. And he was a good young man.
Do we know what the contents of the letter said?
There was a heart drawn in lipstick. There was perfume. And there was 3 words. The lessons continue.
Mel sighs and says, Miss Morgan, where do you hail from? You're not native to here. You've traveled to teach.
No. I am one of the 2 teachers in the village. I also tutor on the side to make a little extra coin. I've been here my whole life. I grew up here.
Very well. Most folk in this town don't have the kind of coin to spare on things like lipstick and scent. So if you've got another idea who could this have been, I will hear it, but I would like to take a peek around. Because even if you don't know anything about the murders, we just need another lead to go on, or this is a dead end. So I am going to take the liberty, and I stand up to go poke around a bit.
She looks at Meric with a hot, angry glare and says, Meric, is this truly necessary? I'm grieving like everyone else is. Meric says, well, Mel, is it really necessary? She seems to have nothing to do with any of this. Do we really need to go poking around her house and her personal life?
I'm doing it, so I guess...
She stands up and follows you to wherever you're going. Now, you might notice that there's no other light in the house except for the light of the lantern.
Then let Amira's light shine and reveal all, and I stamp the spear on the butt and let the light illuminate.
Sure, the light illuminates, and it illuminates the kitchen very well and spreads out into a hallway that leads down to other rooms.
And I would look at her, and I would also add, this is Amira's light, and it would be wise to not hold any secrets.
Go ahead and make a...
Would that be intimidation, maybe?
Intimidation check, I think...
Or persuasion?
I'm going to go with intimidation.
Okay.
If you don't mind. I think it's a little bit more apropos because you're kind of threatening her a little bit.
Only if she's guilty.
So go ahead and make an intimidation check with your magical light.
Oh, that's ridiculous. A natural 20
You
for
are
a total
on
of
fire
22.
tonight. Absolutely on
when
fire
it comes
tonight.
to deserving people, it'll be like,
She blanches. You can see the color drain out of her face when you smack the floor with the staff and the runes glow and you say what you said. She absolutely blanches. She stood up to follow Mel and she sits down collapsing in her chair and just starts weeping.
Unburden your soul, good woman.
It takes her a good half minute to a minute of just straight sobbing and gasping for air and trying to stop herself and contain herself, and then she'll start crying again. And she's like, okay, we were supposed to meet in the barn. It was where we met. it was our rendezvous spot, and we were supposed to meet out there, and for some reason, Ulrich and Meric, this doesn't go anywhere. This stays between us, but Ulrich didn't get drunk. He didn't drink that night, so I was staying there and I couldn't slip out. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I had no idea. And she sobs and starts crying again. She's just a wreck.
Somebody
What happened?
somebody.
You're the bad cop, not the good cop.
Yeah.
I come up close and pat her on the back and say, "And what happened?" Getting
Very
a good,
sympathetic hobgoblin.
Yes.
Also being able to touch her to see if she smells like her note, which I'm sure she does.
I'm going to say go ahead and make a persuasion check because you're comforting her and trying to get her to open up.
Mediocre, 11.
Yeah, not a bad roll, not a great. She's in a sobbing fit again. The answer she eventually gives you is, and I don't know what happened. I spent the entire night in Ulrich's bed. I did not find out what happened until the next day when Ulrich went out to let the goats into the pen. That's when we found out. I had no idea. No idea at all.
She said she was where?
In Ulrich's bed.
Okay.
Meric leans back on the bench at the kitchen table and whistles like, holy crap, that was just a shit ton of information that I did not think was going to happen. That's what his whistle meant. And he reaches over the table and holds her hand and pats it and says, there now, Morgan. It's okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We believe you. And he looks at you guys like, we believe her, right? Because he believes her.
Right.
Okay. He gets the feedback from your faces, and it's like, yes, everything is going to be okay. The truth does help, doesn't it? Don't you feel better after letting the truth out? Marduk was right. The truth will set you free. And he's just patting her hand and trying to console her as best he can. And eventually, after a couple more minutes of just big, wet, sobbing tears and angst and just devastation, she eventually wipes the tears away and takes a deep, shuddering breath. It's like she looks up at you guys and says, I don't know what you'll find tonight or where your investigation will take you, but I truly, truly hope with all my heart that you find who did this to Galvin. You find whoever it is and punish them, because I wasn't lying. He was a good soul. He was a good young man, and I truly loved him.
Okay. I think I'm going to go get word back to the other folk.
Yeah, we need to regroup.
Yep. My question is, did she just give Ulrich a alibi that she was in bed with him all night? Or did I hear that wrong?
No, that's what she seemed to indicate. No one asked if you ever got out of bed. No one asked her a question. And you're still there, so you could.
Right.
Yeah, she was basically giving him, if you will, an alibi, although she didn't seem like... It didn't seem...
No, Marduk is just as surprised as anyone that he...
I didn't miss anything. She said she was planning on leaving his bed and going to the other guy, but he didn't get drunk, so she stayed in his bed the whole night.
Correct.
I'm just trying to clarify that at least seems to give two locations of where people were. I don't think she's lying.
So what that kind of just says to me is he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was alone in that barn waiting for a while. And whatever it was that came to kill the goat and found someone else waiting there that usually isn't there.
Well, if she was going to see him and she was already with somebody else, who's to say that there wasn't a third that is, or the jealous suitors being knocked off one by one? I'm not familiar enough with such matters.
Human breeding patterns.
So I'm taking it's back out into the rain for you guys, and you're having this conversation as you walk back to the Sundaro farm.
But I thought humans were monogamous.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so we'll cut back at this point to Sundaro farm, where Ulrich went and got his older son, Donald, from whatever it was that Donald was doing elsewhere in the homestead. Donald comes in. He's a sharp-looking young man. He has dark hair, close-cropped, blue eyes, a cocky self-assuredness that kind of rubs you the wrong way before you even talk to him. There's just a look on his face of superiority and cockiness. He comes in the room and eyes the both of you, nods, doesn't say a word, and sits down at the table. Ulrich is a little different with this son. He doesn't hover and sit next to him like he did with Owen. He's standing like maybe a good 5-6 feet away and is there to be there, but he doesn't look like he's giving his son any comfort like he did with Owen.
Makes sense. He's at an independent stage in his life.
Yes.
Donald, your father tells me you're looking to do something about the war.
Well, it has been my desire and my wish to join the Soul Guard from the day I could pick up a small wooden toy sword as a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
I have dreamt of this moment. I soon will have that dream realized as I'm about to head out to Temerity to join the Soul Guard in the upcoming war that is sure to happen.
You sound awful excited about it.
I've been training for this day my entire life.
Well, here's an opportunity to impress some people with some pull. We don't know a whole lot about your town, but we do want to help. And if you can help us figure out all that's going on, we might be able to put in a good word for you. We know some people within the Soul Guard, or we could possibly even put a word into the Academy, if you manage to impress us well enough. You willing to help us out tonight?
What would this entail?
First, we're going to be investigating a bit, though we're mostly done with that, probably. But it would be advantageous to have someone along who knows the people of the town and the places around it.
Well,
besides Meric, who
I know this
definitely
town.
has a biased opinion.
Yeah,
of certain
Meric.
things.
He's reached the pinnacle of his career choice. I can definitely lead you around town and show you all the places where someone might hide or might want to spy upon a place, or I can give you insights. I can give you things that you don't know about this village before I part ways and leave to join the army.
When are you leaving?
As soon as this sordid affair is over. I can't rightly leave my father in the middle of murders, so I need to stay here at least until it's solved, and then I can be on my way.
Well, that's important information to know. Certainly, you can help us until this is over, then.
I would love that opportunity. Do you think they'll be fighting?
I expect if any fighting occurs, it'll probably be after midnight. And that
What does that have to do with anything?
exactly that amount of weasel words that I'm going to use.
What does midnight have to do with anything? I'm not a preteen with a curfew.
It's the witching hour. I'm just mentioning when things are likely to go down.
Yeah, he seems to disregard anything his dad says about being home by midnight and is very eager to join your party for the evening.
Sure, I am going to walk off talking with him, perhaps, about what we're doing. The watches we might set up around the farm and give eyes to Alder. Maybe make it clear that he should tell the dad what the plan is with mine eyes. Or at
Yes.
least try to. The inscrutable glare of a woman passes upon you as she leaves.
I understand the look and I understand the plan. So yes, I speak to the father and tell him, you are not wrong. Your son is going to be a bit of a challenge. I smile a bit.
He's a headstrong one for sure.
He is, but I guarantee you that it will be my job to keep him safe tonight. And also my job, as well as Gabrielle's, to try to convince him that war is not a safe thing and that his skills may actually be useful. He thinks so now, that they're beneficial to you and your other son. He believes that his skills are important to keeping you and Owen safe. And just because this minor issue, I'm sorry, it's not minor, people have died, I understand that. But just because this isn't solved doesn't mean that the future cannot be dangerous, and perhaps we can convince him that it would be beneficial for him to save this village, to keep it safe in the future, in case things do go bad with the war.
We have a grand total of 3 Soul Watch that work in 8-hour shifts. We got Meric, who
Is Meric, yes, I
is
know.
Meric. He means well, But if any trouble happens, it's not going to be handled without him calling in some reinforcements from the town, from the village. We've got.
It may be required that Donnell goes to Temerity for training, but Gabrielle was not lying. We do have influence there, and if he is good enough to be a member of the Soul Guard, we might be able to make sure he comes back here.
Well, I can't tell you how much that would mean to our family if that were the case, because, as I was saying, we don't have much in the way of Soul Watch here in the town guardsmen. It's a bunch of retired people in Meric. It would be good to have someone young and confident and capable to take over this town. He's headstrong and he's cocky, but he's got a good heart.
He also cares about you and your son and the village. So perhaps it'll be a little easier to convince him.
All right, then. I'll let you guys get to it. And if you need anything, we'll be hunkered down in here for the night, me and Owen. I'm going to let him try to sleep on his own tonight because he asked if he could. He wants to prove that he's not struggling with the night terrors anymore. And
well, I hope my talk to him helped.
I hope so, too. I've had to run into his room 2 nights in a row to deal with the night terrors. I'm hoping this won't be the third. And with that, he puts a hand on your shoulder, like clasps your shoulder, and says, "May Amira be with you tonight. I hope you find what you're looking for and can solve this mystery."
That is our intent, and we hope so as well.
All right, and then we'll cut to a scene where, as you, Gabrielle, and Donald are walking outside into a pretty steady rain at this point, probably 10:30 at night, closing in on 11. Up the pathway from the south way is the rest of your group. Mel and Marduk and Grodor and Brother Byron.
He mentioned that he had to help his son with the night terrors and overcoming them before he could get back to sleep. Did he tell you anything about the contents of his dreams? I've got something of an obsession with dreams. I might be able to discern some meaning from them. If you're not comfortable.
Kind of embarrassed that I didn't really ask him what the dreams were about. I told him just to be strong and to pray to Amira and think positive thoughts. And I just assumed
the way you thought of.
I just assumed it was about his brother going away because he's so wrapped up in worrying about that.
Well, he's already in bed, right?
Well, he's probably still reading, I would imagine, but he's getting close to his bedtime.
Yeah, I'd hardly want to ask him to remember all that right before he goes to sleep. That wouldn't help. I will pray that it's not relevant. And
thank you, ma'am.
Do my best to protect your family regardless.
He thanks you and goes off to check on his son and get ready for bed himself.
I wasn't even in the room. I left with Donald a while ago.
You did, but you came back inside because Donald forgot something and got a chance to talk to him one last time. Donald needed to get his sword out of his bedroom and his leather armor, his equipment.
Never leave home without.
Nope.
Now
you guys head outside. The another group joins you, and we'll take it from there.
We got a hanger on. What did you guys get?
Love tryst.
Ah, dramatic.
I kind of figured there was something going on with that guy.
This is the farmer's son. His name is Donald.
Oh.
He's going to be helping us for the rest of the night.
I'm the sellsword for the night.
Wants to help keep his family safe.
Hopefully it doesn't end up like the other sellswords.
His eyebrows raise a bit.
There wasn't another.
I know.
Don't give it away.
But he looks concerned for a second, and then his face is quickly a mask of confidence and cockiness.
I'm going to see how well he does tonight. Talent scout.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
What did you guys... Love tryst, you already said.
Well, yeah. It seems like whatever did the killing... If it's a townsfolk, I couldn't tell who. It's just that Donald's tutor was supposed to meet the boy out there in the barn, and as she got stuck somewhere, kind of leave that vague, she couldn't make the rendezvous. He didn't get back home in time, so he got caught in the crossfire of whatever was doing the killing up there.
Okay, so it's definitely the barn.
Seems like 2 in a row, and third time's the charm.
Well, Grodor, you're correct. We have a perfect place to set a trap.
So stake out the barn?
Seems wise.
Donald, Meric couldn't find any cold iron. You know anything better?
That's a fair question.
I'm fairly certain that we don't have any cold iron in the house. My dad looked it over and tried to find some, but was...
Yeah, that's fair. I just don't know if you know anyone superstitious in the town might have something a little extra.
All I could think of is the exemplar of the town.
Oh.
Guy Ledstrom. Guy was an adventurer a long time ago and retired to his homestead here to oversee the land and the property of the village. This is all his, really. He owns the entire village pretty much in the land. So he could potentially, from his adventuring days, have something, but it's awful late at night. He's on the other side of the village, down the south way, and then off to the east. What would be number 4 on your map? Yeah.
What type of man is he?
He's a bit of a ponce. To be honest, his virtue is chastity. He likes to get in everyone's business. Thinks that owning all the land gives him the right to tell people what to do. But I think he means well. It's just someone who's kind of a jerk.
Gotcha. Okay, it might be difficult to impress upon him the common.
Well, we don't need to address him at all. I mean, we're only borrowing it for a night.
I don't think I'd have any part in that. But
Alder?
We don't know that he has something. You want to break into his house and look around and steal something?
I think it's a mighty big transgression on the part of a passersby to sneak into an exemplar's house.
True enough.
Although, if you think you could explain yourself.
I have my writ. I'll see what I can do.
Okay. Can be there for your protection.
You're having this conversation in the barn because it's raining, and I'm assuming you're in the one place that it's not raining,
Right.
and it can stay somewhat dry.
Do we know when the killing was? Am I dilly-dallying too much?
Do we know when the killing was, is the real question.
I think Grodor assumes it's midnight.
It just seems like the witching hour is... and stuff happens. He would disappear from midnight till 2 in the morning, according to
2
Mom.
or 3, yeah.
2 or 3.
And the current hour looks at sundial.
11 o'clock, 11 bells, you hear the ring.
I'm actually thinking it might be later, because if those two were hooking up on a regular basis for a while, and he was coming home around 2 or 3, so if he showed up and was waiting, he was possibly waiting past the time they would normally hook up.
I'll try to make it quick.
And the only other thing I can think of, too, is that if for the past few weeks, those two were hooking up, what happened when they hooked up on the day the other goat was killed?
I still think it has something to do with the...
He might have not been drunk then.
But yeah,
Mother also said it wasn't every day, so...
Yeah.
True. Me and Mel are going to go ask the exemplar whatever the cuss Mel's actually going to do. Unless she doesn't want me to be there. And perhaps... Marduk, you could stop by and get the wagon, drag it close to the barn so we could set up some kind of ambush.
Agreed.
Alright. Hands in the middle.
You might need your martial expertise for that, but if you want to be the voice, I don't mind the company.
I do like talking.
Did you want me to come along, ladies?
I would miss your company if you didn't, friend.
Where do you need me?
You could help set up the ambush if you've got some magical sensors or trip alarms or something. I don't know what kind of stuff you've got in your sleeves.
Oh, I wish I did, but that's really not my thing.
Okay.
Donald offers 2 different things as he hears you guys talking. First, he offers to come with you to the exemplar just so you have someone to introduce you to him. And he also says that he knows of some good spots you could hide around the farm. You can help set up the ambush of the perpetrator, whoever that might be.
That and where's the best place around the barn to not be seen but get a good view of what's going around, so if anything approaches, we'll see it before it sees us.
He can definitely help with that.
Trust in our powers of communication that we won't need your introduction, Donald. Alder, keep an eye on him, because I need you to judge how good he is at this.
Good enough.
Oh wait, you wanted to maybe come along and I invited you to do so. I forgot.
Why can't you be in
In
2
that
places?
case,
I cannot
there's
be in
your
2
answer.
places at once.
Grodor, I need you to watch this recruit and tell me how good he performs at setting up an ambush.
Here you go.
Let the hobgoblin babysit. We know how it goes.
You ain't no baby. I'm judging the quality of a soldier in training.
Donald comes up to you, Grodor, and introduces himself, shakes your hand.
Does he crush it?
Yeah.
Pretty much. But he's eager to take you outside to show you the various places, to set up hiding spots to conceal yourselves and have a good view of the overall terrain from any direction. He says there's probably going to take 2 or 3 different locations to make it happen, but he starts strategizing with you. And then we'll cut really quick to Meric. Overhears you talking and says, I heard you say you went to go see the Exemplar. He happens to be a member of the Soul Watch for our community, and he takes the midnight shift. So I'm getting ready to hand over the ship to him. I can take you there, introduce you, and hand off the baton as it was.
Well, you would know whether that will help or not. Does he like you?
He can be a bit standoffish, so it might not be the worst thing in the world to get an introduction.
All right, come along, Meric. I appreciate the effort.
And also note, guys, that this guy's on watch when this stuff happens, so
Yeah,
ask him about that.
I thought. I am a lot more interested in meeting him now.
And his thing he represents is chastity.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's the opposite of what was going on in this farm. So there might be
Grodor.
something there.
Control your declarations against the character of an exemplar until we've met the exemplar and can agree with you.
Just keep it in mind.
Yeah, it's a good theory. Good idea, Grodor. We'll keep it in our heads.
Okay. Mel, Gabrielle, and Alder pull up their hoods, go out into the rain, head north on the southway, through the village center, up past the village center, towards the outskirts of town, and then turn to the east and head up to the gated compound of the exemplar Guy Ledstrom. Marduk, really quick, you head to the village center, pulling up your hood as well, find the horses and the wagon kind of underneath a lean-to that's put up for occasions, like small little carts like this and horses. So they're kind of in the elements, but not really. You go ahead and secure them and then pull them down the muddy road through the rain back to the farmstead.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to do, any place you want to set them up at the farmstead?
If it's supposed to be a stakeout, I don't want them to be too obvious or too exposed or in the open, but still close enough in order to rush in or respond as needed.
Looking at the lay of the land, Donald suggests to you that maybe just to the right of the 3 on the map, if you put them behind those trees right there, if something's coming from the forest, they'll be concealed, but yet still in the open to be able to move around if needed.
Okay, that's fine. North of the Southway?
North of the Southway, just to the right of the number 3. Behind that those copse of trees there.
Gotcha. Okay, yes.
He smiles broadly, like he's excited that he gave it an idea and it was taken, so he's very excited. All right, segueing to the other 3, Mel, Gabrielle, and Alder, you get to the gate of the Ledstrom estate. It is not locked, but there is an impressive iron gate around the entire, almost like a chateau, almost. It's a big home, at least for a village, it's a big home, made of stone and brick. There's some trees and the small gardens and such inside of it. So anyways, Meric leads you to the gate and opens the gate. There's a pathway that leads up to the house. And Meric goes up to the house. At this point, it's probably 11:30 at night. He knocks on the door. Eventually, a lantern makes its way down a hallway into the foyer, which you can see through the stained glass that is on the door and in the panels to the side of the door. The door opens up and you see someone, a large man. He's tall, broad-shouldered. He has a large beard and wavy, kind of unruly brown hair, brown eyes. Was probably handsome in his youth, but now he's a little bit overweight, not terribly, but just not quite in peak shape. He's wearing some leather armor that's a little too tight for him. He has a sword on his hip, and he opens the door and says, "Meric, so good to see you. And you've brought guests. Interesting. Please come in out of the storm. And you're early, by the way."
Well,
You are led into the foyer. Off of the foyer is what looks to be a study. It has shelves of wooden bookshelves filled with different volumes. There's a large mahogany desk with an overstuffed leather chair, and there's also several other seats in the room, a couch and several chairs that are well constructed and very ornate looking and very impressive. And he bids you to sit down and sits at the overstuffed chair at his desk, puts the lantern on the desk, illuminating the whole room, and says, "So, tell me what this is all about."
Well, I introduce myself as Alder Arusha. It's nice to meet you, Guy Ledstrom, is it?
Yes, Guy Ledstrom, exemplar of charity here in the village of Copshire. Good to meet you as well, Alder. Are you in the military? Are you a
He's my guard.
adventurer? A
I-
guardsman.
Among other things, people have many hats. I
And
am
you are?
the third of the exemplar family Harmony, out east in Tarask.
Not familiar with the hinterlands.
Well, we passed through your town quite a bit, traveling back and forth between Temerity and there, but
Well, good. Hope you find it pleasing.
we've enjoyed your hospitality before. This time, however, there seems to be a bit of a problem.
You're referring to the unfortunate incidents of the last 2 nights at the Sundarrow farm, I assume.
Yep,
She
those would be
is,
the ones.
yes.
Very unfortunate.
Well, we've been spending the evening doing a bit of research, and we have a belief that perhaps the creature, person, whoever's doing these horrendous deeds and killing people, well,
Persons. It's just one at this point, although that's one's too many.
true, but does it stop at one?
We can
Not
only hope
usually.
so.
Not usually. And we've heard that you are a great adventurer, that you've been spending much of your time.
In my youth, I spent time adventuring in the sovereign shores and made my fortune there as I waited for my parents to pass the mantle of exemplar of this wonderful little village on to me.
Well, in doing many adventures and great deeds, I can only believe that you may have acquired some items that might be useful in fighting this creature. Melody has mentioned that she has beliefs on what this creature may be and what we may need to fight it. Perhaps she can explain.
Please do, Melody.
Based on what we've been able to determine, it has cloven feet, similar to that of the goats it has been slaughtering. However, they are at such a gait as to be bipedal, upright, as you and I.
Wait. Last I heard, there was a horseman that was riding about the farm that supposedly was under suspicion because there was no reason for a horseman to be there. What's this cloven hoof creature you're talking about? Where did you
Well,
come to this
We
summation?
haven't seen it yet.
So you don't know if it exists.
But we've seen the footprints. You see, we checked some things that I don't believe were checked by anyone else.
Well,
In-
certainly we investigated the scene and saw the prints. It looked
Yes, and I
like
saw
horse
your
prints.
footprints all over the place as well. And you covered most of them. But if you care to go to the barn, I'll show you the ones that we found. But I don't think that's terribly important. Please, continue, Mel.
In my
Yes.
studies, creatures of that description, the one that we think might be present, tend to have a weakness to cold iron. And if they are to strike again tonight, I would like to be equipped with such. I don't know if you've had anything in your times near Port Verulian or elsewhere, have picked up anything like that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm certainly not the expert here, but cold iron is for Fey. You think this cloven creature is a Fey creature?
It's possible, though many things beyond the veil react to cold iron. Demons are sometimes subject to that as well. If you have silver weaponry, I just figured I'd start with the cheaper thing first.
Well, I do have some weaponry from my adventuring days. This trusty sword here that led me through many a battle. but I believe I do have a cold iron mace, if that would be of help to anyone, that could possibly aid you in your endeavors. I could see fit to loan it for an evening. It's a valued piece of my history and my family's history, but I want this. No one wants this solved more than me. This is putting a blight on our entire village, and I want to make sure this gets taken care of. So I can certainly
let it serve your family one more night.
Go ahead and make a perception check.
Ooh. All right.
I hadn't really had you guys do that because we were just doing it with role playing, but
Gabrielle rolled a 17.
Melody got a 10.
Alder rolled a 13.
his eye contact, even though she's not talking as much, goes towards Gabrielle a lot. He sighs and says, I want what's best for the village. So if you have someone who can wield a mace effectively for tonight, to be returned in the morning, I can see fit to lend this out and allow it to be used.
I physically turn and look at Gabrielle.
Yeah.
Raise my eyebrows as I assume.
Yeah. I understand the attachment one can have between themselves and their weapons. I'll keep it under my protection and use for the night, and be sure to return it to you in the morning.
Very well.
My promise is a night.
If you'd like, I could stop by during my shift tonight. It's going to be a very dreary, miserable shift. Mm-hmm. But I can stop by during the evening if you want some company. If you think there's going to be trouble, I can certainly lend a hand.
I look to Mel, because I'm not supposed to make decisions like that.
Perhaps that would be helpful. These events seem to happen after the hour of 2 a.m. If you could stop by, there will certainly not be any bells that late, but hopefully you have some measure of keeping time.
Yes, I have a pocket watch that serves me well. Gnomish design. That's the best. It's absolutely the best. So he excuses himself, leaves the room, leaves the lantern
right
there.
Before he gets 60 feet away, I trigger Divine Sense one more time. I check out. Is there any evil within 60 feet of me?
There is not.
All right. Grodor is going to be so disappointed, and then Gabrielle leans back in her chair because she is now comfortable.
Okay.
This man is at least sensible enough, and at least enough of what he seems. I'm relaxed.
He ended up lighting a small candle off of his lantern and went deeper into his villa. Comes back about 5 minutes later with a really nice-looking mace. It's just well crafted. There's gemstones in the pommel. Mm-hmm. It's made of cold iron, and the overall design is very impressive. So he hands it to Gabrielle and says,
is it one of those things where he doesn't let go right away?
Yeah, exactly. He hangs on as she's trying to pull it. He just says, treat her well. She served me well. And
Alder is wondering if he's talking to Gabrielle or the mace. I'm not really sure.
Right. Not sure at all.
The mace has been his only lover this whole time, so...
He tells Meric, so I'll be out at midnight, since it's not technically my shift yet. I'll be out to do my rounds at midnight. I'll stop by the farm to see how everyone's progressing. Meric, thank you for bringing these interesting individuals to me. It was a pleasure to meet the three of you. Have yourselves a wonderful evening. I hope you find what you're looking for and can bring some peace and resolution to our village. We certainly need it.
It was an honor to meet you, and I hope we can be helpful as well.
All right. As you make your way back through the steady rain, down the south way to the southern part of town, or to southern part of the village, and then off to the east to Sundarrow Farm, you all reconnoiter at that point. It is 12 bells, midnight, and we'll end it there, getting ready for a very interesting evening as you see what is afoot in the village of Copshire. So thanks, everyone, for playing tonight. I appreciate all the role-playing that everyone participated with. I just continue to marvel at how your characters are growing and becoming more interesting and more fleshed out as the weeks pass by. Also, some fantastic rolling tonight by Marduk. I should definitely state that because
Hey, I had 2 natural
it was a good
20s
night
too.
and 2 natural 20s. I was going to say that by Alder as well.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
It was just a very well rolled evening. And thanks to our listeners for tuning into this particular episode. I hope you found it, even though it was bereft of the battle I thought would happen this evening. It was filled with really good role playing and a thickening plot. So hopefully you enjoyed following along. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Knights of the Night Actual Play Podcast. If you'd like to send us a question, comment, or feedback, you can reach us in a number of ways, including Twitter at KOTN_podcast or by emailing us at feedback@KOTNpodcast.com. And don't forget the iTunes reviews. We also have a Facebook page which can be found at facebook.com/KOTN.podcast. While on Facebook, you can join like-minded folks at our fan page at facebook.com/groups/KOTN-fan. And lastly, there's our blog at KOTNpodcast.com, where there's an Amazon link on the right-hand side. For those of you who'd like a more steady way to help us pay the bills, or if you live outside the U.S., you can help by donating to our Patreon page at patreon.com/KOTN. And please remember to join us next week for more mystery and adventure. Sorry, I was yawning.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay. Buddy, that was you.
I think we lost Scott.
Did we?
Yeah.
All right, my mic fell over, so I'm going to make a little bit of noise getting it set back up again. Teddy walked and knocked it down.
Yeah, because I don't really have a strategy here. I am, like, as a character, super gung-ho about going to do shit that you feel like you're supposed to be doing.
You're totally going to agree with him.
Right.
Go fight the war. Go live your dream.
You're about 2 minutes away from Gabrielle tapping the man on the back and saying good luck.
Right.
So I need a angle to approach this, I guess.
And we'll just say, I mean, your dad will make this sound seamless when he edits it, but, you know, I'm sure you'll figure one out here on how you want to approach it.
Could just be about tonight, not like the future in that regard.
He knows more about the city than we do.
The city?
This
Yeah.
one.
Town, village,
Oh.
Thorpe.
crossroads.
I guess it's a little bigger than the Thorpes. It's a village.
Hamlet? Okay, give me a minute.
Oh, take your time.
Do you want to do invite him along and you wanted to give him a taste of all this to let him know how dangerous it actually is? What was your thought?
Exactly. He would be beneficial in joining us because he knows the most about this village, way more than we do. And that we know people in Temerity, and we might have some influence if he can truly prove his skills are worthwhile.
Okay, okay, thank you. Then we'll jump back in and I'll say,
Do you want me to wait till the sirens are done?
And we called the
I can
police.
mute. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I've tried to get a relationship between Arlo and your character.
Not Arlo.
I'm sorry, Arlo is it's my grandson who was just crying downstairs. That's going to the outtakes at the end of the. Good Lord.
And I get that. I get that. It's
let me restate that. Other titles available for voting on our Facebook fan page for this episode were You're the Bad Cop, Not the Good Cop, Sympathetic Hobgoblin. That's when the devil sits on your shoulder. I'm not a preteen with a curfew. Let her squirm on that for a moment. But I thought humans were monogamous. And third time's the charm.